My name is Kevin Joyce. I'm with Enjoy Productions. I host and design and create events, sometimes as a character, sometimes in a tuxedo. Never done it in a bathing suit, so first time for everything, right? I'm going to give you a couple of intros for the folks that are coming up here right now. This is two people that both believe deeply in the power of community and its strength in the marketing ecosystem. An industry pioneer, Bill McGlade, has served the community, association, and events industry through innovation and ingenuity. That's the French pronunciation of ingenuity. As a published author, speaker, and someone who has bought and sold businesses many, many times, he has scaled and acquired multiple businesses to further the trajectory of this industry. A firm believer in community and its value in the marketing ecosystem, he is currently the president of both EPIQ? Epic. That would be so much easier. Just Epic. Creative Group, a design and contenting marketing agency, and Community Leaders Institute, which he was just telling me about, which is fascinating, a professional membership organization representing 27,000 community and marketing professionals. Brad Weber, Chief Strategy Officer for Community Leaders Institute, is a 30-plus year veteran serving the meetings and event industry in several executive roles. He is a frequent speaker and has honed out. This is how old I am. You know what's good is that we can edit this out in post. Oh, except that it's being live streamed. Shoot.
It could be a
Professional clown introducing people. Brad's a frequent speaker and has authored numerous articles on various strategies in events and the community space. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Brad and Bill.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? So we are from the other coast, and we got here yesterday, and something happened, and my voice is going. So I apologize that I sound like I'm going to age myself right now, but Brenda Vaccaro is what I feel like I sound like right now. And people are like, who the heck is Brenda Vaccaro? I'm going to have to Google that. So, but we are so happy to have you here. And what I'd love to do, because we have a small enough group, I'd love to, if we could do some self-introductions, because it's really important for us to kind of get an idea of who the demographic is so we can, see what we've got. We want this to be very interactive. So there will be no like formal talk questions later. Just keep it coming as it's coming. So I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Name, rank, and serial number.
Kristen, and I work in events and marketing. I'm a partner.
Are you, and can you go ahead and say the organization if you don't mind.
I have my own company in Constantine,
Good.
but I work with other companies I work with.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bjork. I'm an employee experience manager at a company called First Note.
Wonderful.
I'm Aisha Taylor. I'm an executive assistant. I support a team of about 120 between Seattle and Vauxhall, the biotech pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Hike. I work with the company Kimco Realty. I do the marketing for the West Coast.
Wonderful.
I'm Allie Fuller. I work as an events manager for a large-scale homeowners association on Snoqualmie Ridge.
Wonderful.
I help us programs. We organize nursing conferences for universities.
Okay. Okay.
I'm Karina Raditz, also work for Future Sound Energy. Lauren Moritz, also work for Future Sound Energy.
Representing.
Did you say Alana Morissette or Morris? Just wondering.
I'm an events program manager, and I support Watertown Energy Efficiency Programs for residential customers.
Great.
Tanya Quaid, Puget Sound Energy event planner.
Thank you.
What are you starting now?
There you go.
So you and I can talk about the CVent acquisition later then.
Yeah, how about that? Yes.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Hicks. I'm the Special Events Manager with the Pike Place Market Foundation.
Wonderful. We went there yesterday.
I'm Donna Barretto, and I work with Ryther, which is a mental health nonprofit for youth. And you guys are one of our great sponsors. Thank you very much. And so I do our events, and I've worked in nonprofits for about 20 years doing lots of different events.
Okay.
I'm Susan Gleason, and I'm the Development Manager for Transportation Choices Coalition. We advocate for more and better transportation options in Washington State, and we put on a big gala event as well as other events through the year. I'm McKenna Lux. I also work with Transportation Choices Coalition as the engagement and events manager.
Wonderful. Back in the corner? Great, thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, and we have a nice mix here, so that's great. How many of you have either in your title or in your purview the responsibility for creating community within your organizations? Great.
How many of you have a community? Everyone that has an event should have their hand up.
So I'd love to get, before we talk about what does community mean, who would like to share what you believe the definition of community creation is? Look at all those hands going up.
VIP.
What does community mean to you? What's the definition?
Community, to me, community means a group of individuals who connect. That's pretty basic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Other thoughts? You? Okay. Perfect. Here?
Anyone that's impacted by the decisions that we make or should have a say in the decisions that we make.
Excellent. Other thoughts? Yeah. Perfect. Anybody else over here want to talk about community, what your definition is? Okay, well, there is no wrong answer with community, and all of you hit so many key components of it. Bill, I would love for you to share, since you are overseeing, running, creating Community Leaders Institute. When you have to get up and speak all over the world about community, what rolls off your tongue?
Not what she said. So can you repeat that? Because that's the first time that I've actually heard that one. Yeah. So very often we hear it's about connecting, it's about going towards the same goal. But there's actually a lot of communities out there where there's people not going towards the same goal either. And so there is no true definition for community. It's always evolving, right, based around one thing. And when you break down anything to its simplest form, it comes down to this: need. So a community fulfills a need. And that's the simplest version of what a community is. And so every single one of your answers actually falls within there. And that's why, right, in general, when we start talking about engagement later too, why so many people hate doing the metrics for a community because they think their engagement is low or it's very transient. But it's not. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's because you just fulfilled that need, so you should actually be proud. And then when they have another need, they're going to come back. And who are they going to think of? You and your community. So my definition of community, without going into the whole scientific, philosophical thing that Brad doesn't like me to go into, with the dinosaurs and everything and all that, is it's a need that you are fulfilling for a potential community member at that time. And whether they come in to get that need filled and then leave, it's perfectly okay because you solved a challenge, you solved a problem, you helped one person, right? And so if we bring it over into youth mental health issues, right, that community itself all it takes is one youth to go into a community like that and say, wow, I feel welcomed and needed, and that's going to, right there, already help them. Then they might leave and come back when they need to. So that's community. So everything that you said falls within there, but in its simplest form, it's about fulfilling a need, which is also marketing too, so.
So how many of you have been asked, particularly those of you that manage and create and curate events, to create a sense of community? Everybody. And then, so what happens? So when you, like coming here, there's energy, there's excitement, you're here, it's, you know, you're seeing your peers, you're networking. And then all of a sudden there's this thing called a Monday after the event is over. And people get back to their offices, you know, they just kind of go back into their world. And events are community. They are the epitome of community, but it's an area that we struggle with the most, of how to create that 365 feeling of that energy, that collaboration, and that excitement that you have when you're at a meeting. So, so is this a struggle for you all that are in community, of how to keep the engagement, how to keep it going? Head shaking, head shaking. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Building that memory and making it last is super important.
Absolutely. I love that, building the memory. Yes.
It seems like there's so many choices of communities get involved in. You know, there's Facebook groups for every single interest and hobby, and then there's government and civics, and there's professional associations. And, you know, I come from a publication side, you know, so I think about a bigger one like the Wall Street Journal. Like, I will subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. I don't feel part of their community, but if I went to one of their events, I might feel more like part of their community. So, like, not so much on the organizer side, but just on the citizen side, a lot of choices out there. Limited time.
Well, and you bring up a really interesting point. You just stated that you wouldn't necessarily belong to the Wall Street Journal community. Maybe if there was an event, then you could get involved in that type of thing. There's a lot of communities out there that will never have an event, but they create community creation. You know, community like rang true to me big time over something that I go to probably 10 times a day. So I have a little Westie dog, and there's a group called Westitude. Because I don't know, does anybody here have a Westie?
Golden Retriever?
Did you? Yeah, so Westies they're very special. So you go there, I go there, you know, several times a day, and there is over 10,000 members around the world. People post pictures, they ask questions. The engagement is wild. You know, if you ask a question about how many times should I bathe my Westie, you're gonna get 373 responses on how many times did you bathe the Westie. And you know, what I love about it is it's this sense of community and a feeling that just grabbed me. And it wasn't, you know, hard. It wasn't, you know, oh gosh, I gotta go log in, do this, you know, whatever. So, you know, there's all these different types of technologies out there, and community, you know, you're all in communities. So great, by the way, thank you for the feedback.
So, hold on,
Great
but I
dialogue.
want to go back to that. We hear this often at CLI, right? With our 27,000 members, we have to help educate them all the time on, you know, whether they should launch their communities on social channels or use a private tool. We technically try to push them towards private tools, and here's why, right? On social media, are you actually going there to work or answer questions, or are you just going there to scroll, see funny images, and, you know, see what your friends are up to?
Depends on if
Okay, so let's take Facebook, for example. Okay, so LinkedIn, you're going there for work. How often are you involved in the groups?
I mean, it might be,
And most of the time they're not, because the algorithm doesn't work that way, right? The algorithm works for individuals, and so it wants to keep promoting individuals, not even companies and not even the groups. Which is why creating communities on the social channels, hopefully, LinkedIn and all them are not listening to me right now and then kick me off later, but typically, forming your community on the social channels doesn't work. One, because of that, because they're not there to engage in that capacity, but also two, you don't own that data. They do. And so all of that information is now theirs instead of yours. And when you use a private tool, right, you now then have all that data that you can analyze and figure out how to truly engage your actual community members. So I wanted to go back to that one. And then I wanted to ask this simple question too. What's an event? It's so simple, right? Okay, and what's a community? Yeah, so your example of like the Wall Street Journal, you saying you didn't feel like you belonged until you went to the event. That's a shame on Wall Street Journal for not being able to actually engage you until you went to face-to-face. Because it's up to them to make sure that they're providing valuable information to you in order for you to feel like you actually belong. Right? That face-to-face event shouldn't be the only time that you feel like you belong to a community, a group, an organization, or anything along those lines.
So I want to, Bill, let's go back to technology for a second. I really want to make sure that this hits home because we have seen organizations try to build community by going out to a mass, portal, i.e. Facebook, LinkedIn, something like that. And it just doesn't take off, or something might change within the organization, as Bill just said. How many of you have a licensed software, program that you're using for community creation from a technology perspective? That's not one of the big.
That's not social media.
Not social media. What are you using? Sorry? Salesforce, okay.
How many of you have Slack? Okay, and you communicate internally with your employees? All right, so you're using a tool right now. Technically, it's a messaging tool, but a lot of communities start on Slack as well. Slack provides a free way for you to be able to do that. Right, so it doesn't mean when you want to start, build, grow, engage a community that you have to spend money necessarily, outside of social platforms. You can use free messaging tools to be able to start it. Hey, one of our biggest competitors, CMX, right? They're a Slack channel. That's what they are, right? We don't technically believe in that because we have a platform that we're launching where we're going to have all of the content, right? All of the live streaming, all of the events, and everything held through there. Slack doesn't allow you to do that, right? So we believe in the power of more enterprise community platforms. But if you wanted to actually start one, use Slack. Simple as that. So let's poll real quick. Who's looking to start a community? Okay. All right. Who's looking to grow their community? All right. So we're all in growth, and then obviously engage. Both. Doesn't have to be. Right. So what are you looking to do right now for a community?
Well, I work with shopping centers and we have events across the country.
Okay.
Constantly building community events.
Yeah, all right, so you're building community events. Perfect. I love the way that you put that. So technically, if you were to start an online community, to start engaging them throughout the year, your community would be comprised of all of your shopping centers, essentially. So your attendees, your exhibitors, your sponsors, all of those. Then that's who you're bringing into the community, right? So it doesn't have to be an internal one where it's an organization. It can be external, right? So for example, an energy company could be internal for employees, right? For if you're large enough for that. It could also be external, right? So you could pick and actually create micro communities, which is where that niche component comes in, which is why there's so many of them, right? So let's just say that you are, we use, what is it? I don't even know what my energy company, PSE&G, right? Where we are in the East Coast. If they started a Bergen County community on energy and they started putting out education on how you can actually save costs on, your energy bill and all of that, I'd probably join because I want to save costs on my energy. But that's a micro community specific to me within my specific area. So like an energy company can do something like that. And you can use platforms to segment the audience into the different locations to make sure that you're speaking their language specific. Because that's, again, fulfilling a need that they specifically have. Right? Or if you're a technology company, and I'm going to come back to events as well. Technology companies probably, are the easiest ones to form communities. They have their clients. And then what do? They use all of the user-generated content from clients, right, to bring in prospects. And so now it becomes easier for them to actually sell their technology because they formed a community based off of their clients, and now the prospects are seeing how happy and amazed their clients are, how engaged they are asking questions, not on the support side, but like, hey, how do I use this better? How do I do this? How do I do this? And everyone's communicating back and forth with each other. That's how technology companies grow pretty quickly, actually, and are scaling by using community. So on the event side, right, the question that we're going to get to is like, how do I take that event and actually make it 365, which so many people are sick of hearing, right? How tired are you of hearing 365? No? Wow, I like this group. I like this group a lot. All right. So many times all we hear is like, I don't want to hear 365 because it's just another thing that I have to do. And I already have to do a lot, right? How many of you have time right now to do something else? And so when you hear community, you're like, ah, crap, that's a lot of work that I got to do. It is and it isn't. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. I know Brad has more questions, and he doesn't like when I hijack the whole session.
No,
so.
this is great. So I want to ask you, for those of you that do have something set up and are putting content out, what kind of engagement are you getting? Are you happy with no, shaking heads. So what percentage would you say of the people that attended your event are engaged on your community platform? What percentage would you say? Less than 5%? Yeah.
We have a pretty compelling mission, and it's still less than 5. I mean, my question more to you guys is, moving from transactional to stewarding. And so, finding opportunities to do that, which we do, but, then it's just one more thing.
So specific to yours, do you allow anonymous posting?
Oh, sure.
Okay. The reason I ask that, yep.
Right.
And we respond to it, where it's a very sensitive topic.
Mhm.
But yes, we do.
Okay. 5%'s not bad, and we'll get to why.
Other percentages, thoughts about what kind of traction you have? Are you monitoring it? Are you checking, even looking to see? Okay.
Our traction is both have in person and then because of COVID, we turned to virtual events. Different programs, some renewable programs, business programs, residential programs. I think we get really good traction, being that usually typically most of our events virtually get that 40% attendance rate from however many folks registered. And then we have a ton of events we host in person all throughout our 9-10 counties. But for me, it's just what's like that new. I want something new to offer people. I don't want them to be like, oh, there they are again with the same set, same song and dance. For me, both in person and virtual, I'm always trying to think of make it easy so people can retain the information, simplify it, but make it fun and engaging. Because sometimes talking about energy efficiency programs and gas and electric isn't always exciting.
Right.
So that's my struggle is what's that new? I'm always looking for that new something to offer. That's my personal.
Did you ask your audience?
In our surveys, in our virtual surveys, at least we're asking people like what they want to hear from us.
Do you take surveys when they're sent to you? Which is good. Yeah, that's really good. But I'm talking about personally. Do you take surveys when they're sent to you? Exactly. Surveys are a good tool to get a pulse quickly, right? But if you really want to know what they want, call them, email them. Do you have like what do we call them? Innovation think tanks is what we brand, at least for CLI. Technically, they're advisory boards, right? Do you have customer advisory boards that represent various, profiles, personas, right? So one thing that you could do is start like an engagement group, right, within your community itself and say, hey, we want to freshen this up, we want to make this fun, we want to make this exciting for you. Be a part of our ambassador program, be part of our engagement group so we can help make this better for you. You don't always have to come up with the answers, right? Your audience has the answers, you just need to actually tap into them. That's the hardest part, is how do you actually tap into them to get them to answer you? And surveys aren't always the best ones. Use it, but use micro surveys instead, right? So do like 1-2 questions, right? And then maybe like a month later, do another 1 to 2 questions, right? And that way they don't feel like they're spending 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes to answer these long surveys. They're just taking 20 seconds because, TikTok, Instagram, all of this has changed. And then talking about like your events, you get 40% on your digital side. That's really good, all right? Because when everyone signs up for a webinar, what do they actually want? The recording afterwards. That's it. They want to show. They just want the recording afterwards because they want to watch it when they want, where they want, how they want. Thank you, Netflix. Right. So everything has changed in events world and in community world, but businesses aren't changing. Right. We're still doing the same thing. We're offering webinars. Right. We're offering polls. We're offering surveys. We're trying to engage people in the same exact way, but we're not trying to actually ask them how they want to be engaged. Do you know why Reddit is still so freaking popular? Because it's so simple. And people can ask the dumbest questions and not feel dumb, right? Because it's a safe environment for them, right? That's engagement, right? So you have to open up your community to make them feel like they're safe and engaged in order to actually ask those dumb questions or present ideas. And a lot of people don't necessarily feel that with communities, right? And this even goes for like the youth aspect of it too. It's like, yes, it is a safe environment for them to go, but sometimes, right, and especially with them, the big thing is they're very much stuck in their own mind. And so they're already afraid of asking certain things because they don't want to feel any more different than they do, right? So how can you get them essentially to feel like they're not different? There is more people out there just like them, so feel free to ask those questions because we're here to actually help you, right? Or on, who was the homeowners association, right? Okay, who are your people?
Oh gosh, we have a really diverse community. I think we're all just kind of there by geography. They were drawn to the area for some similar reasons. So we really like to go off on why they moved there. Often it's the nature.
Okay, and then how do you get local businesses involved?
Emailing door to door. We have a pretty consistent merchants.
Okay,
We merge with them on stuff like that.
and what's your engagement?
Like on the marketing materials you send out.
On the community itself?
Event attendance can range from 20 to 4,000 people. It's all
Okay.
across the board.
So has anyone noticed a consistent theme of every response when we ask about engagement? Every, well, yeah, that too. But everyone here said event. Event. So you're still, I think this is the point that we're trying to get to. The event industry is so stuck on events, they're not focusing on everything else. And so you think that your event is it, or your multiple events are it, but it's not. Right? You're a business. Do you only operate 3 to 5 days a year? No, you operate 365 days a year. I hate saying that, but you do. Well, holidays, I guess you don't, but you still do, right? So why wouldn't your audience want to operate 365 days a year? Why only those 3 to 5 days during your event? I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be devil's advocate to my own self. I'm going to tell you one reason why. And then, of course, we're going to talk about why they don't. Because of Wall Street Journal. All right? Events have a feeling, emotion that's tied to it. Online communities don't. And so we need to start bringing back the emotional side into technology. So when you come to an event and you're talking to someone face to face, what happens? Yeah. Right? According to Adam Sandler, your medulla oblongata, right? It just like brings everything up and you just start getting all these feelings because we're humans. And going back to the dinosaur age, which I still think we were around then actually, but I'm not gonna go into that. Going back to the dinosaur age, right? That's what we wanted to do, right? Even when we were cavemen, what did we do? Build fire and like huddle around each other and then started language, by grunting. We want to connect. It's humans, it's emotions, it's how we feel. We're not the only ones that do that. Animals do it too. But how do you invoke emotion through written text? Anyone have the answer for that? Don't say emojis.
Storytelling, why are you in
Yes.
stewardship? Again, I getting back to the stewardship question is, you're right, events are not just one time a year, it's everything that you do in between to connect. And for surveys, I'll tell you what, I send out an email first, and then if they don't engage, then I call, then I send a postcard, and I try to help people understand how important
Yep.
their feedback is to us. So it does take an extra effort, but you do get, a diverse feedback versus just the people who answer all the surveys.
I love it. So at Epic, we have what we call a DNA. It's not a mission, but like our internal DNA, 4 different things. But one of the things you said is important, and it's always take the extra step. Right? So instead of coming with a challenge, come with the challenge and the solution. If you have a question, the answer is, did you Google it first? Right? Because I can answer it for you, but did you take the moment to Google it? And we do that purposefully because we want to take the extra step for clients too. Right? So instead of just going at them and asking a question right away, it's, well, look at their website, see if you can answer the question yourself first, and then go to them with a deeper question. Right? And that's the point also in online communities. Are you taking the extra step at the moment? Or are you just doing and checking off boxes and saying, well, I created a post, I did a webinar, all right, I emailed everybody, I created a newsletter, I put on an event, and people are just supposed to engage. So are you just checking boxes, or are you actually engaging them? Anyone want to answer? Don't be afraid.
So, if you think about a business in terms of the benefits of engagement, like, what are some of the benefits? Some of the benefits might be increased customer loyalty, increased revenue, more repeat sales, right? So,
Community touches every single department within a business.
right, better retention of employees. So it's a pretty broad, thing. So those are sort of the benefits you're going after. But this question of feeling is important as well, because for me, it's about a feeling of belonging.
Mhm.
And an event will promote that feeling of belonging better than any interaction I have with my computer. I belong to the Seattle Swiss Society, been around for over 100 years. There's very little engagement online, but when we have an event, engagement's very high. 50–60% of the membership will show up, right? So, I think you have a tough job because it's hard to generalize about such a broad concept.
It is very broad, but it's becoming more and more defined. And the issue with engagement and metrics, which is why I actually hate talking about them, is every single technology out there that's meant to track that doesn't track it correctly. Because it's like, take for example, why can't I think of the 2 major ones right now? MarTech. Marketo and Pardot, right? So Salesforce, Pardot. What do they actually track? email open, social media stuff, right? There's nothing to actually track. There's some new technologies coming out to track internal, right? Engagement, actual levels, and then what are they doing on social? Are they posting specifically about it and tying it all back in? Then you'll see your actual engagement levels going up. But to answer your question on the emotion, there are things that you can do online to invoke emotion, right? What's one person that you follow consistently on social media for your personal life, not business, that you are like, oh, I love just watching them, right? That's emotion. And so you need to figure out, which is not easy. It's not easy at all. How do you become that person for your community on an online world, right? And if it doesn't work online, I guess I can say this, screw it. Don't have an online community then. Community is not limited to online. Community is events. So instead of just hosting like your one event a year or your 2 annual events a year, hold local ones, meetups, micro ones. If, for example, you think that the best route for you is to hold events, and that's the engagement you're going to get, hold more events. It's as simple as that. It's not, because that's a lot of work, but it's just as simple as that, if you want to engage your community. But I guarantee you, you can invoke emotion online if you learn to channel the people that you follow all the time, because you're following them because they're invoking emotion in you, right? And figure out how to do that for your community, which is not easy at all.
Do you need that one person, or is it the entire team that engages with it, or?
If you're looking to start one right now, I would say you need one person that's dedicated to it to launch it correctly. Eventually, you'll start to get more of like your internal team involved in it because they'll start seeing the value of it. The different departments will. If you don't have a resource to have someone dedicated to it, then spend the time that you can on it and then start getting the actual loyalists, right? So that loyalty that comes with it to start posting more and engaging more. Start that ambassador program because then they're going to start posting more. Do you have consultants in your industries? Right? Partner with them. Make sure that they're actually posting within your communities. They're going to post on social too, but whatever they post on social, tell them to post in your communities because then it's going to drive people to the one source of information, you. And that builds brand authority, right? And thought leadership. 2 of the major components of marketing, especially for content marketing, right? So if you're the thought leader and you are the authority in the space and you have an online community and you have all the consultants, all of the users just posting within there, they won't go on social, they're just going to come to you. So there's one thing for you if you're not using consultants. We all love to hate him. He's a consultant. We love him. Hate him at the same time. No, just kidding. We all love to hate consultants, but they do serve a much larger purpose, and that purpose really is beyond what they even know. Because they're putting out so much information and they're trying to be thought leaders themselves. Well, guess what? They want to be thought leaders with who? Your people. So put them in front of your people. Grow your engagement, and then what's going to happen? Right? Now your sales department is going to get involved because they're going to start seeing more opportunities in there. Right now your marketing department is going to get involved, even though community really falls within marketing, is going to get even more involved. They'll start publishing more of their content in there, right? Now customer service is going to get involved, and you'll start like a little client, subsection within there, and to answer any of those questions, okay? Then who else is going to get involved? The execs. Those people, right? Why? Because now they're going to start seeing the value that this one thing has in every single one of their departments. So it takes time. Community is not something that you can just like launch and then let's go. I wish I had a genie that could do that for everybody. I really do. The power of community is that powerful, but it takes time to actually build and a lot of effort. I mean, CLI, when we acquired it, right, it didn't have that many members. We did grow it, but we're also putting out a ton of content. right? We do basically one guest webinar each month. We do internal videos, right? So we call them clips, so it's 3 to 10 minutes, basically. And nothing is talking at, it's always talking with. So we've got people sending us information and questions all the time, and we answer them. Then we do live ones once a month. Then we've got sponsored, webinars. This is all digital side I'm talking about first, right? All right, and then we've got digital events. We're up to 2. We're going to be launching 4 next year. So that's the power of just digital itself. Virtual's not gone, right? We're just tired of it. I sold a virtual platform in the height of it, so, so it was good then. And now not so much, but yeah. So sorry, buddy. Virtual's not gone. It's just boring, right? Because it's the same thing over and over again. So then you come back to your in-person events. We hold one annual, and now next year what we're doing is pop-ups. So we finally analyzed our data enough and got what we needed. We're actually going across country, and we're going to be doing 10 pop-up events, small ones. 27,000 members, we're only doing 100-person pop-up events at all these, because you don't need that many people at events. Like, I love CES, but do I need 100,000 people at an event to make it successful? No. Because at a 100,000 person event, do you feel like you belong? Or at a 100-person event, do you feel like you belong? You had a question?
With the online community, how do you combat fatigue of just being at the computer, right? Like, I feel so much of us are working remotely, or like you said, if we are going somewhere for community, we're probably going to Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. So the thought of like having to log into something for community for me, or, it's
Yep.
just, I cringe a little bit. That sounds crazy. But yeah, so how do you combat that?
Yeah, so do you go on social media after work? All right, so pretty much everybody does, right? When you're lying in bed, what are you doing? You're scrolling, right? So it's not so much the actual fatigue of being on a screen, it's fatigue of sitting at a desk and being on a computer, right? So the number one thing that you should make sure for any of your community platforms is it mobile friendly. It doesn't have to have an app, just make sure it's mobile friendly. The second thing is, are you putting out content on social while they're scrolling to bring them back to your community? So it doesn't make it feel like you're actually working. While you're scrolling, that's how you combat fatigue. So while you're scrolling, and I do this all the time, because at night, put my kids to sleep, I turn over, I'm like, do-do-do-do-do, and I'm scrolling on LinkedIn a lot, and I look over and I'm like, oh man, this is my community. All right, I got to click on it because it's something that interested me. And I went back into the community without even knowing it. Now I'm scrolling in the community. And then I go back. So that's how you combat fatigue. Fatigue is sitting at a desk and a computer, not a phone. Because we're so addicted to these phones still, which is another thing. We won't get there. That's another thing for you. That's another thing for you. Get the youth off the phones. Yeah.
We work with a bunch of neurodiverse kids. They are very into technology.
Right.
That's their community.
That was a great question.
So I want to pop back for a second on the kind of creating safe. Safe is obviously very important in all community. The thing that you can create when you have safe and also when you respond. So there's nothing that upsets me more is when I do a survey and I make thoughtful responses and then the organization doesn't do one thing with it. So that's going to cause you not to want to click and do it. They're like, well, they're not going to do anything with it anyway. Why bother? What's that?
Go ahead, ask the question.
So, well, hang on. So what I wanted to say to you is when you are going to create community and you're going to start having that dialogue of maybe someone makes a comment or maybe someone throws out an idea, you're going to have to make sure that person doesn't just sit out there in Cricketville and, that there's not something like, your organization should be like, thanks for the feedback, or even if it's a heart or something, that creates that empowerment. And the other thing, as event professionals, you have already, right in front of you is so much content. You have speakers that have already been selected for an event. And why not have them then become content creators in like unplugged sessions or something after the event? So maybe it's a portion of what they talked about, or if they were very popular, maybe there's something else that they can do. But also, this creates community from the standpoint that you go out and ask for your own employees, your own customers, to be the creators. Ask them to be content creators. And, a lot of people don't like to get up and speak, but people would like to maybe, hey, I'm going to, get on a blog, or, maybe I'll do a video or something. But you have the content so readily available. So don't look sometimes at this and think, oh, where do I even start? Well, you start by, working with an organization that can help you do it. But just realize so much of what you need is actually already at your fingertips.
How many of you do content marketing? That's a very few. Did you raise your hand? Yeah, very few hands there. I'm surprised. What is content marketing? Who wants to answer?
Are you talking about sponsored content?
No, just what is content marketing? Curated information to your customer, okay? What do you?
Where you take a smaller amount of pieces of content and you reuse them or recycle them in different ways across different platforms.
All right. Anyone else? All right, so in the beginning of this session, what did I do when it came to the community? And you asked me the definition of it. I broke it down to its simplest form. Everybody tends to make everything so freaking complicated, and it doesn't have to be. Content is anything that you curate or create that has a goal or purpose in mind. Postcard, an email, a blog, anything, a social media post, that's content. All of you are doing content marketing, you just don't realize it because you think that you have to create ebooks, webinars, videos, all of this. You're doing content marketing, but you're not doing content marketing in the way that your perception is telling you because the world is trying to tell you that content marketing is this. It's not. Content is anything that you create or curate that has a goal attached to it. That's it.
So believe it or not, wow, we are down to 5 minutes.
We did have one question in the back.
Oh, I didn't see it, sorry. Please.
So I was just looking at the website for the Community Leaders Institute, and I see, Verizon and Microsoft, and then you mentioned that if you're gonna do something, community building seriously, it's good to have one dedicated person. So it seems to me there's a big difference in terms of size of organization. Large Fortune 500 company can dedicate those kinds of resources. When you're a small business, ROI becomes really sensitive, right? So that's one thing I'd love to hear you
Yeah.
address is ROI in the last 5 minutes.
Sure. So CLI is made up of Fortune 500 all the way down to SMBs. Before I answer that question, give your definition of a small business.
Small business, well, I think it's pretty standard definition, under 500 employees or 1,000.
Right. So in my opinion, the problem with that standard definition is if I had 400 employees, I could afford to also, at that same time, have a dedicated community manager. Yeah. So here's the thing is, nobody knows what the ROI is going to be until you actually start doing it. What we're doing at CLI is going around and we're talking to tons and tons of businesses, whether it's at events or things like this, and explaining the ROI. And the ROI is exactly what you just said before too. So you know the ROI because it touches every single department. It makes their lives easier. It cuts down on acquisition costs. It cuts down on prospecting, right? It helps on customer support, helps on marketing. You don't have to spend as many ad dollars, right? So now you're saving budget because now people are just coming to your community for things. So there's also revenue opportunities that we're not going to even touch on today. Whether you're a corporate business, event planner, association, whatever it is, there are tons of revenue opportunities within an online community as well. You've got partners as a business, right? They want to promote themselves with you, so they can do that within there. The ROI of a community, you cannot understand until you actually do it. So I can generalize and say, hey, your ROI is going to be the time that you're now saving on every single one of the departments that gets to touching it. It could be the budget dollars you're now saving and the revenue that's being generated because you've got new prospects coming into your community and seeing everybody that's talking about it and engaged, and they want to feel a part of that. Right, so I could generalize it in that way, but for example, if I were to talk about a restaurant that's really got like 5 employees, how do they start a community? And my recommendation for them is start the community on social media, right? Because it's going to be vastly different than a 400-person community, or I mean a 400-employee, company. So that's why I struggle with the standard definitions, right, for small business, and I specifically ask that because it's going to be drastically different depending on the size that you are. Great question, though.
Yes.
Because you made the distinction between like a 5-person employee company versus 400. What is that sweet spot, that tipping point? Do you feel that you're big enough to move from social media and onto a private platform?
It doesn't have to necessarily do with employee count, it has to do with revenue. And so the tipping point typically for revenue is, are you generating enough profit to afford an actual person to do that and spend full-time? If you have a social media manager, like full-time social media manager, then essentially what you can do is have that social media manager, which is where these roles are shifting from social to community. All right, so we've got about 210,000 community manager titles right now in the US alone. And unfortunately, because of the tech layoffs, that has gone down, but it's going to come back heavily, right, in 24 and 25. And the reason for that is a lot of anyone that has social in their title is now adding community because they see it as like the next hottest thing. It's not the hottest thing. It's the core of marketing. People just need to start realizing that. So profit. Do you have enough profit to hire somebody, or can you switch that role?
All right, so we are at the top of the hour and our MC is moving over here. But before we do this, I would love to just recap really quickly for you some key takeaways. So one, this group right here, you know what happened in here? You formed a community, you created a community, and you created curation of a community based on where your backgrounds, there's some likeness there, comfort, safety, safe, so, right there is a perfect example. Engagement, obviously is critical. There's a lot more that we could talk about. We talk about our whole revenue model, technology model. We could literally go on for several more hours on this because it's such a big topic. But I do hope that you have at least something you could go back and try right away, or at least kind of maybe move your thinking a little bit of a paradigm shift on the event and the creation of community.
Did anyone come here with a question that has not been answered? Did anyone here have anything that they want to know at this immediate moment that they can take back and implement, besides the things that we talked about?
We are struggling to get the new generation in our
Yeah.
community. Like our community average age is 40.
Okay. And what is your community again? Sorry.
It's nurses.
Nurses? Okay. I follow Nurse Who Golfs, one on Instagram. One, because I love golfing, my mom was a nurse, so I'm always fascinated with what's going on in the nursing world as well. The reason why she has such a large following and engagement is because her videos are really engaging. What are you doing at this moment, is my question for you to think about, that engages nurses in the way that they want to be engaged? They're already tired, right? So they're essentially, I'm not going to say emotionless, but they're so freaking tired that they don't have even time to feel anything at that point. And so your job is extremely hard because you're working with a group that probably not even going to scroll, or they're going to zombie scroll like crazy and just, not want to go anywhere else at that point. So your engagement, right, in order to get them back to engage, is going to be a lot of social aspects. And it's going to be a lot of fun things, right? So crazy hook lines, crazy videos that are like, oh my God, do you see what this nurse did? And then it pulls you back into, the community and stuff like that. And that's the only way that you're going to actually increase the engagement, is by embracing your weird and being a little crazy.
Let's hear it from Bill and Brad one more time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Well done.
So while we do this from a consulting side, I also do this for free a lot. So I don't have my cards on me, but they are at the booth, which we're 6 something. I should know my booth, 608. So honestly, just take my card and email me. If you have specific questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for your specific needs and your specific community.
What a gracious offer to community right there. One thought for you is nurses who sleep, because that might help the entire community a great deal. This was a fantastic exercise in both the communication about community and community leadership. My encouragement, given that you now have all become a community, but you're like, I'm a community, I like these people, but I don't want to sit in the same row as them, is that you connect with other people over the course of the next day. We've been isolated and disconnected for several years, and the notion of community is also to bring us into relationships. So I'm Kevin, Bill, and Brad did a fantastic job. I'm presenting next door at 12:30 on why customization and telling community stories matter. And how do we tell community stories? So it's connected to what these guys do. Thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a great day. Love each other. Be happy. That's my encouragement as they leave.